It is that time of the week where we get together and give you $1 Million Agent podcasts. Troy Malcolm, John McGrath, Tom Panos, probably episode close to Troy. We're in the threes or not?
253, I think we are today.
253 episodes of $1 Million Agent. And the reason we had to fit it in...
Tommy, hang on a second. You say that time of week. This is the second time in 250 we've done it at this time of the week. So I love the fact that you're making it like where we've got this organised time slot and it happens same time, same place. It's that time of week. This is the second time we've done 4 o'clock on a Friday. God love you.
A big shout out to Joanne that works out. I think it's in Leeton. I can't remember, but it was Joanne. I did a coaching session with her and her partner, husband, I think, during the week. And she says, you know what we really love about $1 Million Agent? Lately, it just comes as a surprise when we least expect it. It just, so that's the reason I thought we got to get back in and get one done this week. And I'm pretty pumped and excited because it's that time of the year. There's so much happening, a lot of sales happening around the country. I've just left Josh Tesselin's office in Quakers Hill, driven back home. And I was saying to John off camera before you coming in, Troy, that it's really interesting that, and by the way, I love metaphors. I love metaphors are interesting because they help you visualize it. And I said to Josh, you made 25 sales in October and 39 in the office. I'm just curious, where did the listing leads come from? And that's what we're going to talk about for a lot of today. The fact that if you walk around the Bay Run, you'll see that there could be some guy with a fishing rod. He's sitting there. He's got one rod trying to catch a fish. And then occasionally you see a guy who's a little bit more prepared, a little bit more professional, has taken more time, set up 10 rods, sits back and is watching. And I think that's a really good comparison to real estate. The best agents I know, Truancy included, Matty Steinway, you'll notice that they don't rely on just one lead source. And I've got an actual model that I'm going to go through today, which had a lot of Josh Tesselin's lead sources. But John and Troy, your view on lead sources and opportunities.
Oh, look, you're right, Tommy. Layering, as we often call it internally, is key. I mean, there's always going to be some things that work better for you or that you like more, but you know, and I'll extend your metaphor a bit further is, you know, you got someone with one rod and someone else has got 10 rods and someone else goes out and buys a net and builds a cannery and they scoop in all the fish and they put it in. That's what Josh Tesselin's done. Josh has got the net out there. He's scooping them all in. He's creating a team around him. And I think this is the key thing. And I've seen it with Team Dowling and just in our business, Team Dowling, Team Steinway, Chauncey, McManus, Ockelander, all our best agents, they have multiple lead sources and they work them all. And some of them are letterbox, and we're going to go through them in a minute. Some of them are social media, but I think it's critical because it's like an advertisement, Tommy. If you remember, you're looking at that on TV, and often you'll see it 10 times before you even realise what it is. And some, you'll flick it across, and I think, it's a bit like that. Familiarity and frequency builds sort of this subconscious thing that you're the best agent. So Troy, I think it'd be fair to say of our guys, that's what our top people are doing. It's layering.
I always liken it, John. When you're in the market to buy a new car or something like a new phone and you start thinking about it, you maybe read an article on it online and then you see an ad in the paper and then all of a sudden it starts popping up everywhere. I think the same psychology works with real estate advertising. If you just had one approach to prospecting and it was just signboards or it was just DLs, you wouldn't have the same results as if you see a signboard, a DL, a social media post, a full page ad in the local publication, maybe a banner on the local school as a sponsorship option. I think you have to have a consistent approach in those layers before you can start to see those results come through because, if you only had one approach and one strategy, you wouldn't see nearly what the agents that you just mentioned. They're phenomenal in the way they work, but you wouldn't see those things come through.
True. So why don't we explore some for our listeners and just give them some of the ones that Josh is using. And I'd be surprised if a lot of the successful agents wouldn't say that they're one of the most important. So let's go through them. a weekly drop. In fact, as I was leaving his office, there was 8 big boxes out the front. And I said, what are they, Josh? He says, they're next week's letterbox drops, right? They're in boxes. So letterbox drops.
Own the letterbox, Tommy. Just what I'll comment on a couple of these they go through. Number one is make sure it's always recycled, so it's as environmentally friendly as owning the letterbox can be. A, for the environment, most importantly, and B, for your own brand. Is people keep receiving this stuff and it's on non-recycled stock, it's going to annoy a lot of people, as it should. So that's critical. The second thing is make sure it's valuable, relevant information. Don't do the chest beating. How good are we? And I think even we won an award at this. I think it's more about these 6 homes have sold recently. These are the prices. We think the market shifted up 5 to 7%. If you're interested, we'll be in your street next week. So that brings a bit of relevancy and immediacy to it. And I was talking to actually Steve Bock this morning out at our Forestville office. Steve and Karen are fantastic agents, and they were saying that particular one works very, very well for them, which is information plus we're going to be in your street next week, which they are. It's not made up. They are going to, they're or your precinct. So I think that for owning the letterbox is a great thing, but make it environmentally friendly and make it relevant and call to action and something that's relevant for the time, not just the information.
John, I also think make it interesting. Make it information that they can't get access to. So where are the buyers coming from? Are they coming from the Northern Beaches? Are they coming from the Inner West? What's the average size of the family? Give them insights that they can't find themselves online by just a couple of clicks. I think that's where we get caught up in a lot of the relevancy, is making sure that it does really get cut through. Otherwise, it's just going to be more stuff that's shoved in their letterbox.
And Tommy, knowing that we've only got 20 minutes, we won't make this level of commentary about everyone, but I think that's a couple of key points. Number 2 is what, Tommy?
Insta story that then is automatically duplicated on Facebook story. And that is normally a post that is showing that you're active, listing and selling real estate, might be at a photo shoot, might be a property that's just been sold, but it's essentially letting people know that you're doing stuff. And as Imogen McAllister says, an Insta story a day keeps the doctor away. It lets people know that you're there. The third one is a Facebook post and an Insta post, which is different to a story. It's something that actually sits there permanently. Stories are erased after 24 hours. So he actually said Facebook posts, and I said, well, give me an example of Facebook posts. And some of the examples of Facebook posts could be a video off a vendor that has just sold their property. And where the real value comes in, guys, is that post can actually be tagged to the vendor. So if you actually have, for instance, if, Troy had sold his house and Troy says, listen, I've just sold my property and I was over the moon with the whole process, 10 out of 10. What you can do is have that video then tagged to the owner, and then you'd ask Troy, listen, if you're happy enough, we'd love it for you to share that video. Troy's got 500 friends. He shares that video. That's the equivalent of what the barbecue recommendation was 20 years ago, but actually done to 500 people. It's actually a recommendation on steroids.
Quick one there, Tommy, on that to add to it. Facebook Live auctions as well. If you've got a good on-site auction upcoming, I know Mike Dowling's been doing that lately to great effect. If you've got a good on-site auction, send it live. Have someone in your team, videoing it and sending it live. Next one.
Next one is a community video, being a video where you show that you're aligned to local businesses in your community and that you support them and you're there. The value of that video is, apart from you actually, promoting the local business, they also have an audience. They also have followers. And if they like the video, they actually might be putting it up on their timeline, which means you get introduced to another group of people that might not actually follow you.
I know, Tommy, that Alex Mintorn used to do his weekly market wrap Saturday afternoon. And if there had been a business that had opened in the area, he would interview them. But even if they haven't, he'd do it in a local cafe. So today I'm in Grasshopper Cafe, and I'm doing a report from here. It's great coffee. So he would kind of rove around, so doing that. So another little opportunity for people.
John, I think I recently saw one from Alex as well on the North Connects, or near the North Connects. So the North Connects just opened. obviously affects a lot of his community. He did one live as he was driving through the North Connects, which I thought was an interesting take. Someone else
We'll
was
get
driving.
Tringali. We'll get Tringali to do one on the West Connects. Hopefully, if we stop whinging about the whole thing. I mean, my God. Anyway, Mr. Haberfield, he's on fire. He is on fire. I love him.
Yeah, I've just noticed, actually, just driving back home, I've noticed 3 boards that mustn't have been there 4 or 5 days ago. And I presume some of these are off markets because I've only seen the board pop up with a sold buy, which says to me he must have negotiated that deal pretty quickly.
I did it with him, Tommy and Rose and the family last Monday, and I got to tell you, he's a good real estate agent, but he's a bloody good cook too. Amazing. I don't know if you've ever been there, but very, very good. So,
well, John, I'm letting you know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed he doesn't consume this podcast tonight, because if Michael Tringali listens to this podcast, there will be 6 months of conversation. Oh, by the way, John loves my food, right? I won't hear the end of it. Susan, Troy, try and hold off. Can you block? You know, you can block stories on Instagram. Can you block podcasts?
Tringali. Block Tringali.
Block him. Don't tell him he's a good cook. Okay. The next one is rating sites, and they do matter. I think consumers actually will, if they're unsure. I've done it myself. I've gone on to Google reviews at the last minute where I'm trying. Look, it happened the other day. I was in Enmore and I looked at a restaurant and I thought to myself, should I go in? It was at lunchtime. Should I go in? And I went on to Google reviews. I'm not going to mention the restaurant, but the first 4 reviews said, not the first 4, amongst the first 4, said, I had food poisoning. Now, I don't know, but the fact that it was 4 in such a short, and it affected me, and I went across the road, and then I walked back and I was salivating because I wanted this, I don't want to mention the kind of food because people say, well, there's only one of those restaurants in Enmore. But here's the deal. Can I ask you both, do you ever go off and look at reviews before you make a decision on things?
1,000%. And what I was saying to our agents in Canberra yesterday is, if there's 7 reviews and they're all 5-star, I get very, very suspicious. If there's 124 reviews and most of them are really, really good, some are good and there's a few bad ones, I'll go to that restaurant or that movie because it's real. You want it to be authentic and real. And we all know that if you're a high volume agent, there's going to occasionally be someone that's not 1,000% happy with what happened. So I think you've got to be as authentic as possible. I know Josh has been huge on, what is it, Troy? Tom, is it Open Agent or Rate My Agent?
Rate My Agent.
Yeah, huge on that. And I think REA is pretty material now. Google. I think Google reviews are becoming more and more important too. So I'd be looking at a strategy that gets you onto all of them.
So for our listeners as well, REA has just changed their algorithm. So it's not just based on the number of reviews, it's based on how many quality reviews you have. So you can actually search by the criteria of how many reviews are 5-star, 3-star, 1-star, and they'll rank themselves that way. Tom, I don't buy anything these days as any significant purchase without checking online product reviews from it. So if it's an iPhone, if it's a camera, if it's a microphone, I won't buy it unless I've got at least a really quality review from someone I trust on YouTube or on Facebook.
Well, the other thing with Josh is, I know you'll be aware of this, he emails or he texts a link to his customers that says, Tom, I hope you had a good experience. If you did, if you wouldn't mind linking through and saying if you would. He makes it easy to rate him. So it's not about, cross my fingers, I hope someone finds the site. He actually creates a system and he sends it out to every customer. Next one, 5.
Okay.
6.
Next one, as plain as it sounds, a weekly email that goes out same time, every week, that is predictable, that's got useful information. I know that every Friday night at 7:05 p.m., I get a John McManus email. 7:05 p.m., I get a John McManus email. It's like clockwork. So the next one, what do we got here? He's got Rate My Agent, vendor testimonial. Oh, pre-portal videos, which is pretty much something
Sneak peek.
that Lisa Novak has mastered, which is, hey, everyone, letting you know, giving you the heads up. You're going to get 3 days before this hits REA and domain. Let's have a quick view. So pre-portal videos. So you can see, and it was along the lines of what you were talking about before, Troy, which is stacking. You see, these things working in combination has someone that says, got the drop, saw the signboard, saw that on a live, and before you know it, you've actually etched and tattooed in the consumer's mind, right? And I think that where the real work comes in is to do this thing repeatable and predictable and scalable requires you to actually be an organized person. And essentially, if you're going to be a person that's doing more than 5 sales every month, you're probably going to find that you're going to need to have support, because if you don't have an assistant, you are the assistant, you know.
With all these things, Tom and John, the process will set you free. You know, if you can nail it once, you should be able to put a process down and make it repeatable. And I would say that to everyone. You don't need to do everything that we mentioned, but you do need to pick the ones that really work well for you and execute them every time you get a listing. John, we've spoken about Peter Chauncey over the years. He's become famous for owning the letterbox. And we know it's a very simple formula that's repeatable every single listing that gets very good results. 1,500 just listed cards that go out, 1,500 auction invites, 1,500 sold cards. After the 6 sales are made within that month or week, there's a 6-pack that goes out communicating to his marketplace that everything that's happened with those sales. I just think it's a very simple approach, done very well, that's got phenomenal results for him over the years.
By the way, guys, the reason I was at Josh's office is I do training and coaching with him and his team, and today's was a session on scripts and dialogues. What's interesting is when we use the term scripts and dialogues, it's not actually scripts and dialogues, it's actually approaches and frameworks to actually speaking to people, right? A lot of people think, oh, it's exactly that word. But it was really interesting because I got a text message as we're speaking. And the text message is from Taylor that works there. He said to me, Tom, is there an approach? I'm finding it difficult to talk to listings that have expired and me getting in there and talking to them. And I said, okay, what are you currently doing? He says, hi, you know, got a buyer, blah, blah, blah. I said, try this. Would you be open-minded enough to hear on how we sell properties in 72 hours that may have been on the market for 3 months? And he tried it and he said to me, he's got an appointment. And I just want to finish up on this point. Think about it. If I got up at ARIC and said to the people at ARIC, who is open-minded here today? Every hand would go up. Everyone wants to be associated as being an open-minded person. They don't want to be a closed-minded person. So I often find if you're introducing an idea to someone, a very soft approach is to say, would you be open-minded enough to hear, and then you go into the topic? Because I think a lot of people don't want to define themselves as being a closed-minded person. But he had a great run too. He told mate, this guy here, young guy as well. He did 100 and what did he say he did? I think he did $190,000 a month, right? Matty Steinway, he did $1 million in. Oh, we were talking about that, John. $1 million a month. $1 million a month. I mean, we got people here that have got on their goal chart, on their vision board in 2025 to write $1 million in a year, right? And Matty Steinway, you know, walked around, still did his triceps and biceps, and still did $1 million in GCI for the month. Extraordinary effort.
It is extraordinary.
Extraordinary effort, extraordinary team.
Gang, it is 4:30. It is the end of the week. Thank you so much to all our listeners tuning in. Guys, can I ask you much planned for the weekend?
Nah, not a lot. I was just going to ask you, is it same time, same place next week?
No,
we can't say that, Tom. The chances of that are infinitesimal. That'll be same time, same place. I'll just say we'll see you in about a week or two. Somewhere, somehow, we'll let you know.
We'll see you soon.
We'll see you soon. That covers it. See you, gang.
See you guys. Bye, everyone.